All right, here we go. It is the nightcap, Sunday, August 28th. Right here on BearcatJournal.com, brought to you as always by Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Get yourself down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% off your order, or just stay home. Order it on Uber Eats, have it delivered. Order it through the app, get it delivered by Uber Eats, and enjoy your Galactic Fried Chicken from the comfort of your home. Remember, closed on Monday and Tuesday, open now Wednesday through Sunday. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Chad.
Have you had a good Sunday?
Yeah, it's been relatively quiet.
Same. It's the calm before the storm.
It's going to be a long week.
It's going to be a long week. I've got radio all 5 days. First Luke Fickell press conference on Tuesday. I'll get a little bit of practice in. I've got to leave before the end of practice on Tuesday to get down to the Moorline Logger House and do 5 to 6 with Mo Egger on his show. And then Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I am live 3 to 6 on ESPN 1530 with the Bengals kind of in that week that we just had, where it's that quiet week before game week. We're going to talk a lot of Bearcats. We're going to talk a lot of Cincinnati, Arkansas as we get into this. So I am excited for radio all week. And then Saturday, if you're not going to Fayetteville, Aaron's going to Fayetteville.
I am.
Brent Young going to Fayetteville.
He is.
I will be at the Holy Grail hosting our very first watch party of the season. Big thanks to everybody that came out to the Holy Grail for the happy hour meet and greet on Friday night. That was a blast. I think everybody there had a lot of fun. That is something I would like to not do all the time, but I think over the off season, I think it's something fun to mix in and just kind of have everybody hang out. I thought it was really cool that like people that didn't know each other were just gathering at tables and sitting around and telling
cool.
UC stories. That was the coolest part for me.
Yeah.
And Taylor being Taylor.
Getting to finally meet Taylor face to face after being the one who recruited her on and all of that. That was super cool too.
Well, after you left, she eventually ended up her and Kelly were sitting next to each other and just she's 24-year-old Kelly. She's a spitfire. It's great. So I was like, Taylor, this is you when you're in, hopefully not, but this is you when you're in your 40s. And Kelly, remember when you were 24 and you were ready to fight the world? Yeah. So that was a good time. All right, Aaron. We're in game week. This is a little bit off the wall, but it is the 28th of August, as I said.
Yeah.
The final regular season game for Cincinnati is November 26th. What do you think 3 months from now, going into championship week, what are going to be the storylines that we're talking about as we get through this regular season? Because I'm sure we're going to get into this a ton this week. We're going to get into everybody's predictions and projections and how they think the season's going to play out and what your final record is and the whole 9 yards. What are going to be the prevailing storylines when we hit the end of the regular season?
I think that it would be...
And a full disclosure here, we have not prepped this.
No,
I just told Aaron.
Yeah, I didn't even know what we were going to be talking about.
I have a fun topic, and I prefer to do these off the cuff.
Yeah.
Because when you prepare them, I don't think they're as interesting.
I think that it would be reckless for me not to think that we're looking back at some of the position battles and wondering if the right decisions were made, or heralding some decisions, or perhaps wondering why certain guys didn't have these positions by midseason or something of that nature, because we may see. I hope that Arkansas is in a game that we look back on shoulda, coulda, woulda.
In terms of like, did they start the right guy at boundary corner?
Correct.
Did they start the right quarterback?
Yes.
Did they make the right decisions on the offensive line if they make changes And we already assume, like, I would be shocked if Joe Huber doesn't start at right tackle with Dylan O'Quinn at right guard.
Agreed at this point, for sure. By the way, his line did launch today. You can get the Joe Huber collection on 513shirts.com.
Please do. That's a great kid. It's a great story. This is NIL money for him. The proceeds go to him. So go get you a Through My Silence Comes Violence shirt at 513 Shirts
hoodie,
for Joe Huber.
Yeah, he's got a couple different, I think two different styles, T-shirts, and then two different style hoodies, which are the same as the T-shirts, but just hoodie style. Anyway, but yeah, I think that would be one thing that we're going to be. I wonder how much that's even going to be the conversation throughout the entirety of the season, but especially when we get to the end of the season and we can look back with full 2020 vision at that point in time and just wonder, as people emerge throughout the season and what have you, did they make the right decisions? Or, again, heralding these decisions that were made and we're all just dumb, idiot people who think we know football and we're not coaches for a reason.
That's where I'm going. Coaches.
Okay.
New offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. Essentially, Mike Tressel's been here a year. But Mike Tressel, for the most part, carried through what the foundation that had been laid by Marcus Freeman because that entire defense returned.
Okay.
This is essentially year one for Mike Tressel's defense as the defensive coordinator. So Gino is new in that offensive coordinator spot. Mike Tressel is new in that defensive coordinator spot, essentially. Obviously, there's a huge benefit to being here for a year, building relationships with guys, getting to see what all these young guys could do behind the scenes before the curtain goes up on thrusting them into the spotlight. And then special teams, Kerry Combs. I think it goes underrated the last 4 years how outside of field goal kicking, which there's only so much a coach can do, the guy has to go out and make kicks. But the special teams under Brian Mason, punting, punt return, kick return, kick coverage, punt coverage, every other element of special teams was outstanding under Brian Mason. Kerry Combs now comes in, takes over special teams. So I think, like, watching that, the narrative, the talk from the fan base as this develops, because and Gino is stepping into what Marcus Freeman was, right? Which was the heir apparent.
Yeah.
And Marcus Freeman became the heir apparent because Cincinnati went from trash on defense, garbage, when Luke Fickell got the job, to one of the elite defenses in the country when Marcus Freeman walked out the door for Notre Dame. Quietly, Mike Denbrock built one of the top 20 offenses in the country at Cincinnati over his last 2 years here.
For sure.
He took a crap ton of heat.
Yeah.
But the reality was, if you looked at the numbers, Cincinnati was a really, really good offense.
Efficient.
Very efficient. And now Gino takes over the reins. If Gino continues to coach Cincinnati's offense at a top 15, even top 10 level in terms of efficiency and yards and points, I believe 2020 was the third best offense in school history. 2021 was the second best offense in school history, both just behind 2009 in terms of yards and points and the relevant metrics. If Gino continues that, all of a sudden everybody starts to relax about whatever happens, because I thought there was all the way through Marcus Freeman taking the Notre Dame job for like 2.5, 3 years, there was this feeling that, like, okay, if Fick leaves, Freeman steps in, and it might take a minute or two for him to get all the way up to speed, but, like, we're okay. The heir apparent is in the realm of what Cincinnati will do. And then it wasn't. I think Gino has a chance now to become the clear, if anything ever happens, in case of emergency, break glass. Gino Guidugli's your head coach. He's not there yet, but he has the chance to get there, right?
Sure. I think another topic that we might be talking about come the end of the season is how prepared this team either is or isn't, depending on how the season goes, to enter the Big 12. Because at that point, we'll have an idea of the recruiting class that we've put together at this point.
I mean, the recruiting class is already essentially done.
Well, I mean, but you may start to see some 24s and kind of
probably not
what they're preparing. Maybe. Potentially.
Probably
but
not.
I don't know. I mean, you also have a pretty good idea as to if the transfer portal guys that this team brought in were
as good as we thought.
I mean, we think that they're really good at plucking dudes from the transfer portal. So is that going to continue to be the case once they have this season under their belt? But those were just some other topics that I came up with as you went on a giant soliloquy.
I didn't go on a giant soliloquy. I just went and I discussed what I thought was the fan base. The reason I think that's all fascinating, I'll go back to it if you insist. The fan base picks sides.
Every time.
Well, no, but I mean, like, because Marcus did this, right? And you weren't going to, Fick wasn't a target because Fick did this. It was Denbrock. We can't get this one. And we can't get that one, so we're going to get this one. And what Mike Denbrock did with this offense, it wasn't the most high-flying, like, run and shoot, throw the ball around 60 times a game type offense. But they put up yards. They put up points. They did more than enough considering the level of defense that Cincinnati played in the last 4 years. But everybody still, they couldn't spell his name right. They called for his head after every game to the point where I would jokingly, when I saw him walking off the field after games, I would boo him just for them so they knew that their voice was being heard.
I actually was with you a couple of those times.
To his face, I would just boo him.
No, did you call him Denbrock or Dembrock at that point?
I call him Dumbrock. That's what
there you go. All right.
Yeah, that was my affectionate. But he took it in stride. Like he knew he was the one that was taking the heat because
he was the whipping
God.
Boy. Yeah, he was
God, and Marcus was Jesus.
He was the whipping boy. He was the scapegoat. Like,
right.
Yeah, and I guess like the best thing about him in the little time that I got to know him is that he seemed to just be okay with that. Why? Yeah. Because winning fixes everything.
Yeah, they lost 7 games in 4 years. Like,
it's pretty good.
And they had 2 of the 3 best offenses in school history. You can kind of double middle finger the haters when you're producing at the level that they were producing. But somebody's going to be the scapegoat in this group. Is it going to be like we saw hints of Mike Tressel last year? People complaining about Mike Tressel last year, and they were the number 1 pass efficiency defense in the country, and like the number 3 defense, number 2 defense, depending on the metric in all of college football.
Now, do you think that that's because he is the defensive coordinator, and so you had to pick somebody again, and it's not going to be Gino in his first year, and it's not going to be...
Well, it's because there were hard feelings when he left 10 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, whatever it was. He rubbed the fan base the wrong way. He did the one thing you can't do, which is make this fan base feel like they weren't good enough for you.
You did this to yourself.
We saw it with Mick, and it never went away because he left and went to work for Pitino. Like we're just calling a spade here, right? Yeah. I think that's what, like, you think the guns are going to be pointed at Gino Guidugli?
I said no, they're not.
No. You think people in this town are going to point the guns at Kerry Combs?
Yep. Probably not. Maybe on the east side, but not
the east. Yeah. But yeah, of course they're like, if the defense, like anytime, and that's my point with Denbrock, you can be good and they're still going to point the guns at you because the guns have to be pointed at someone. If this defense is top 17 in the country, like they're 16th in the country 3 months from now. Now we were top 10 when Marcus is here. That's what we're going to hear, right?
I mean,
the inevitable slide has begun.
That's not moving the goalposts. I don't know what is. Good God.
But that's why I wanted to have the fun of this topic, because we know how this stuff, like, we have
fun now before it's not fun at the end of the season when we're actually having these conversations.
We have a playbook on how this is going to play out.
The vitriol and spitfire is everywhere.
It's the internet, man. Everybody's got to be right.
And it also moves at 100 miles an hour, and good luck corralling it.
Right. There's no slowing it down. So I just thought this would be let's get it on wax.
Can't wait to go back to it in 3 months.
2 months and 28 days or whatever.
Just see how right or wrong we were in regards to all of the shenanigans and chicanery that is going to be going on here over the course of the next 90 days.
Who's going to make the biggest star turn in this season? Who's going to go from unknown to Brian Cook? That's we knew, but nobody else knew at this point in time last year Brian Cook was going to be, one of the highest draft picks in school history.
Miles Montgomery.
I don't hate it. I mean, the only thing in the way there is Corey. Like, I think ultimately as we get through 12 games, the only thing in the way there is Corey. I think we know this, but I think it's going to be Josh. I think Josh is going to, remember 2 years ago, he was considered one of the, but I'm saying
he was already too highly.
2 years ago, we considered him PFF considered him one of the best tight ends in the country.
Yeah.
Last year, because of the injury to start the season, he got off to a little bit of a slow start. He kind of lost that forward momentum. I think that comes back, and as we're getting towards the end of the year, we're talking about Josh as right there with how high is he going to go? Is he going to be a second-round pick, a third-round pick, along those lines?
Now do defense.
Ooh. I think it's Briggs. I think he changes things so much from the point of attack. And maybe, that Arkansas line is massive. So maybe it's not Arkansas. But when I look at the rest of that schedule, who really is going to be able to stop him from just destroying the pocket up the middle? And then, as we've talked about with Tony, and that just creates so many problems for quarterbacks when they can't step up, they can't find their spot. I think it's Briggs, and then behind Briggs, the surprise for me, and it's not a surprise if you've watched camp or listened to us about camp, Ivan Pace is going to have a monster.
I was going to say, which Pace brother is it? Because I think that's going to be the most interesting conversation that we have all season long is which Pace brother is actually better. We're
going to talk every game about which one had more tackles.
For sure.
Who got the better of that day when it comes to tackles? Mm-hmm. And then how can Jaquan Shepard hold on to that spot? He did in camp. He did.
Hey, I mean, plenty of fighters have made it to the 13th round.
Right. And then here comes JQ. JQ had a great, for a freshman, maybe the best. His freshman camp was miles ahead of Ahmad Gardner's freshman camp. Miles. But it's because he's 30 pounds, 40 pounds. He's so much more of a.
While Sauce's trajectory continued up, does he plateau at some point? As that's not an easy thing to continue to do.
Yeah. Jaquan Shepard said, "I'm fighting. I'm fighting for this spot." And he made a ton of plays over the last 10 days of camp, and then going into the middle week before we get to game week. So there's so much we could do. We might have to bring this back up tomorrow night to get Brent's thoughts and expand on other things that we're thinking, because it's a fascinating topic. What are we going to be talking about in 3 months?
Should be fun.
Last year, we knew what are we going to be talking about in 3 months. Success or failure. Right? They did it or they didn't. That was the only thing we were going to be talking about. Now the spectrum is really wide. and we made it to 20 minutes. Let's get out of here. He's Aaron Smith. I'm Chad Brendel. That's the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!